So, welcome to REvolve, our inaugural event, which is New Skills and New Heights, hosted by our amazing YPN network. And we have a good one for you today. We have two amazing, and the purpose of REvolve, by the way, is to bring the best and the brightest from our BHHS network to share success strategies with our agents. And we got the first speaker is Jake Garay, is with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Hudson Valley Properties in LaGrange, New York. In 2015, he transitioned to becoming a full-time realtor using his background and experience in construction, real estate investment, and quickly established himself as a top agent in his office. In 2019, Jake joined the Blake Michaud team and helped to establish the team as the number one in their market, doubling their production to 74 million in 2022. At the end of 2022, Jake partnered with Blake to form the Garay and Michaud team, closing 124 deals in 2023. And I don't think he's 30 years old yet. Is that right, Jake?
Turned 30 like a week ago.
Oh, hey, happy birthday. All right. The second speaker is Noah Escobar, is with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Beach Properties of Florida in Santa Rosa Beach, Emerald City, Florida. He started his career at 22 years young after graduating from Florida State University. By the way, my youngest is a freshman there, Noah, in his hometown of Tallahassee. In his first 2 years, Noah sold over 30 million through video marketing and creative distribution to attract out-of-state prospects into a secondary home market. He was also ranked in the top 25 Latino agents with under 2 years of experience in the nation. I think Louis will love your sharing because he's also a big Latino guy. And the number one Latino rookie for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services by the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. So welcome to REvolve, Jake and Noah.
Super excited.
Thank you for having us.
And I know there's a lot of people on the call with watch parties and stuff. So as you start to listen to the podcast episodes, virtual event here, please post your questions in the Q&A and not in the chat. So at the end, I'll come back and kind of maybe ask Jake and Noah questions that maybe not have been covered. But I'm going to turn it over to our amazing YPN hosts. We have 11 amazing YPN ambassadors of the company, and today it was Louis's and Molly's turn. Louis Ortiz is an team leader from our Cherry Hill office in New Jersey, and Molly Gilbert is from our Wayne, Devon office. So with that, I'm going to be off camera and taking notes and listening to this exciting conversation. So take it away, Louis and Molly.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Rajiv. Yes. And welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Noah, Jake, thank you for speaking. And it's been really exciting talking with you about video and social media and putting this, all together. And of course, watching everything that you've been doing on your socials now that I follow you. So I'm really beyond excited for you two to share everything, what you're doing to this group and learn more today. So let's definitely get started.
Awesome.
So we're going to go through a series of questions and can't wait to learn even more from you about this. So most importantly, number one question, how has video contributed to your success? And where and how did you begin? And how has it evolved over time?
I'll go
No, you
first.
wanna go
Come
first?
on, Jake. Yeah, I'll
Go
go
ahead.
first. So I started off my business. I'm in 30A in between Panama City Beach and Destin. So my market is primarily second homes, investment properties, second, third, fourth homes. It's definitely a secondary market. So I actually started off my business doing cold calls to vacant lot owners, which is unemotional. The lots I was selling was about 500,000. And I realized like the more that I worked, obviously the better my business got. But if I ever stopped working, my business was going to stall right there. So I leaned to video to kind of connect with people faster because I saw nobody else was doing it in my market, and it allowed me to take relationships wider because people started to trust me. And so over the last, I want to say I started in February of last year, maybe. I've now gotten to a point where over $10 million in buyer and seller leads have been closed directly from leveraging YouTube and the video distribution. It's one of those value propositions that not every agent is doing, so it allows me to, especially to stand out. And even with the recent lawsuit, it shows people me adding value up front. So when they come to interview me, it's like they already know me, right? So what can we do to add, build like and trust process? And that comes through video. As of now, it's evolved from nobody watching my content to about 7.8 hours of watch time a day. So that's 8 hours while I do my own prospecting, while I hang out with my friends and family. doing side projects and side hustles, doing video production for nonprofits. It prospects for me for about 8 hours a day, which has been pretty cool.
It's amazing. Noah, that's amazing. It's fantastic to see how your journey has kind of evolved. And it seems like your platform is YouTube. I just wanted to also see how Jake has done this, his journey as well. Jake.
Thank you, Lewis. So I was in the business at 20 years old, and I started with social media primarily because of necessity, right? What's the first thing everybody says when you get into real estate? It's like, well, go to your sphere of influence and talk to everybody about buying and selling. Well, at 20 years old, you don't meet a lot of people who are even renting, let alone buying and selling. And social media was really the only place that I could go to tell everybody what I was doing in a passive way that wasn't super salesy, tell them about what I'm doing, and also try and showcase my expertise and stay top of mind. So I started off with just your generic posting of pictures, listings, and things like that. And then I started to try to personalize a lot of that content. And I saw the shift on socials going away from kind of stagnant images and more towards video, and tried to put myself in as much as humanly possible to really build my personality, because in this business, we're really selling ourselves more than anything, right? At the end of the day, everybody knows a real estate agent, everybody knows someone in the business. What really differentiates you is your personality, your style, your way of doing business, your expertise. And so for me, video was a way to do that and to stay top of mind with people. So I started off with a lot of just talking and just, showcasing listings and just trying to test a lot of different things. My strategy with social, with video, really with everything is try everything. I think a lot of people overthink like getting started and trying to get too technical with like, here are the steps, instead of just being like, hey, let me just take a phone, put on the camera, record a quick video, showcase a listing, show people you're doing the business, that you're out there showing houses, meeting with people, all of that. And that's kind of where it started for me. And it's evolved into this all-encompassing thing that sometimes feels like we're running like a small media agency for our team, quite honestly. But that was a process that happened over the course of 4 or 5 years. And it wasn't like an overnight thing. It was a progression. For me, similar to Noah, a lot of it is the passive prospecting. It's staying top of mind. I always say social media is almost like a CRM, because it's a way to stay connected with people and be personal about it, without being super salesy and constantly being like, hey, I sell real estate. Remember me? When are you listing your house? It's a way to just talk about the business, to show people what you're doing. And yes, it leads to lead generation. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten 4 listings just off of my Instagram alone. Now, that's a process that's taken a long time. And obviously, this time of year is a very heavy time for listings. So I think it's very cyclical. But it's also the fact that the thing that's hard to quantify is how many listings we win, because we sit down with every single seller in a competitive CMA where they're interviewing 2 or 3 brokers, and we show them our marketing, we show them what we're doing. And in our market, not a lot of other people are doing that. So we win so many listings just because of that. Even if they didn't find us on social media, if they didn't find us through a video, we win that business because of what we're doing online and with video. So it's not just the leads, but also the ability to sell yourself to your clients that I think is really, really helpful for us.
Nice. Well, you're obviously not shy on camera, and I like how you both just got out there and just got started. And I think that's, a point where a lot of us have to, just take that first step. And I really like how you both harped on the passive income, because that's really important. And, that you're getting from using video and social media. And with that said, what platforms are you guys using and why?
So I primarily focus all my attention on YouTube. Jake is a great example of starting from YouTube and leveraging it to different, creating an umbrella effect and going to different platforms. So that's something I'm personally learning from Jake. But YouTube has been something since. So I grew up, my dad's in the Army, so we grew up overseas doing all these different things. Every time I wanted to learn about something, I went straight to YouTube because I wanted to see it, right? I wanted to see it, I wanted to hear it. And so I realized, like, okay, if people are coming to my place as a vacation destination, if I do the same thing, how are people going to find content about my area? So I realized that people were, YouTube is owned by the largest search engine. It's the second largest search engine. And so I really started to leverage, like, okay, if I'm going to go to YouTube for information, I know that other people are going to do the same thing because they're potentially searching for it. So I had a couple of buddies, they're like, hey, we see you're generating business through YouTube, but you have 200 views, right? And it's because those 200 views are intentionally searching for that. Like one of my videos has, I think it's up to like 350 views right now, but it has generated me about $3 million in buyer leads, right? So because people are intentionally searching. And I think one of the biggest things, something I need to learn from Jake, is that people are taking this, big content, long form content, and turning it into short form content. Because I think if people are looking at Instagram as TikTok as the next search engine, right? Like I was hanging out with my girlfriend, she's like, where should we eat? And she goes on TikTok and types in 38 restaurants. Never before have I ever seen anything like that, but it sparked something in me, right? For the first time, where it's like, I have to then adapt to YouTube is a great place for my demographic. My clients are typically between 30 to 55. So they're on YouTube. But if I want to attract younger professionals and entrepreneurs into my area, then I also got to leverage TikTok and Instagram. And using AI cuts down so much simpler than it used to be. But I think Jake does a great example of taking one piece of content and deciphering it up through a couple of different platforms.
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing, Noah. I mean, I personally go on YouTube all the time. Just how do I do this in my garden? And it's like the best place to watch those long content videos to kind of learn. So I agree with that. And it's definitely, we as agents have to be out there on YouTube and all these social medias. But Jake, tell us a little bit about your social medias that you kind of do, and how do you kind of work that?
Yeah, so I'm try to be everywhere. It's funny because Noah and I have a good contrast. Like he's perfected almost to a sense YouTube, and he's gone really deep and really effective. And I defer to his expertise on that platform because what he's done there is phenomenal. My approach is kind of like a shotgun approach, right? Like I'm everywhere. I'm trying to repurpose everything and be in a different place. One thing that I heard, and I forget who said it, but there's discovery platforms and there's consumption platforms, right? So people go on certain platforms to find you. And, whether it's on Instagram in the For You page or whether it's on TikTok, just scrolling through, you find a 10, 15, 20, 30-second video, you watch that and you're like, wow. And then you want to find more of that person's content. So you may follow them. And the next thing you know, you're watching their 10, 15, 20-minute video on YouTube. And so YouTube is a consumption platform. Instagram, TikTok, and even YouTube Shorts are more of a discovery platform. So I'm on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Try to do some written content and video on LinkedIn, and even some engagement content on X, formerly Twitter, and try to be everywhere, because the demographic of someone who's consuming content on Facebook is completely different than the demographic of the person who's consuming content on TikTok. But the person who's consuming content on TikTok is my client maybe 5 to 7 years from now. So I might as well start building that relationship and building that rapport with them through video now. Whereas Facebook maybe is that it typically skews to an older demographic, 40 plus. Those are your home sellers. Those are your people that you want to reach that are going to be selling. And they may sit there and consume a 25, 30-minute video on that platform if they come across it. So each platform has a specific purpose. And the more that you kind of involve and you see who you're engaging with on each platform, you can kind of cater to your audience on that platform.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I
Cool.
mean, spreading yourself out, more places, more people see you for sure.
Yeah.
I got
So-
one thing to add to that too.
yeah,
So
sure.
I use the YouTube as basically a lead funnel, because those are intentional leads that calling me directly. They're hot leads. But I mean, much like what Jake was mentioning, like getting in front of people, I think one of the most important things is, okay, we can get in front of consumers, but also I'm 23, so my sphere of influence is poor, relatively to my average price point here is 2.3, right? So the 23-year-old is not going to necessarily buy these homes, but their parents are, and I'm friends with them on Facebook. But the most important thing is, like, I take my content, my long form content, I put it on LinkedIn, but I feel like Facebook is really working a lot right now because it allows me to get in front of other agents. So we came back from the conference over in New Orleans. And so, like, my number one thing is like, hey, you can subscribe to my YouTube, that's great, but become friends with me on Facebook. I want to see what you're doing. We can engage with each other. But at the same time, it allows me to say in front of their minds when it comes down to, okay, 30A, the beach. And so now when they see the Facebook thing, it's like me having a conversation with them, because they're seeing my face, they're seeing what I'm saying. So that's a great platform that I've been using for agent referrals and networking, which is, I think a lot of people miss that. Like, you only content. Like when I look at my Instagram, I gotta like realize I'm not creating content for who's already following me, all my buddies from college. I'm creating content for the people that I want to follow me. And I think that mindset shift, because everybody's like, should I create a new Instagram? Should I create a new YouTube? It's like, use what you have, create the content that you think is going to generate the most amount of conversations. That's the most important part for me, and the reason I do YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I think agent referrals are also great. So I just wanted to get into the nitty-gritty now. So if I was a new agent coming into the business, or just an experienced agent that wants to do video, what's the best way to get started? What tools, what apps, what do you recommend, BHHS tools that we have at our disposal? Kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I'll go first, Jake, because I'm a little bit newer to the game than you are. I'll tell you what I've done is, Berkshire Hathaway, I was a Berkshire Hathaway intern for 2 years before I got into the business. So I've been with Berkshire Hathaway for almost 4 years, so ever since I was 19, which is crazy. But I was an intern under Jimmy Burgess, and so he allowed me to sit in rooms that I probably didn't belong in, but allowed me to connect with a bunch of different people. And I think that's the biggest thing is, okay, like I see what's working for Jake up north, and I'm like, how can I take that idea and replicate it down here at the beach? And I think the biggest thing that you can do as a newer agent is find other newer agents, within that 2 to 4 years of starting out, because that's kind of the burn rate, right? Make sure what they're doing is actually working, but seeing what they're doing in terms of, okay, what videos are generating leads for them? What type of content is creating the most engagement or conversations for them? And the biggest thing with Berkshire Hathaway is like, if you reach out to me and you say, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah with Berkshire Hathaway, I'm like, oh, we already have something in common, and we can just have a conversation. So I think leverage the brand for what it is. It's basically a huge networking event, right? We all wanted to get to know each other. And so I would say, as a newer agent, how do you get started is find other people that are doing exactly what you want to do and ask them for help. And then I would say, like, the next thing is, when I look at like doing YouTube or Instagram, I always want to find someone that's doing it a little bit better than me, 2-3 years longer than me too. And I want to find out, like, hey, what took you 2 years to learn that I can learn today? Right. And engaging with these different people and having those conversations are huge. And that's what I do. Jake's probably tired of talking to me all the time. I'm like, Jake, he built out a team. He's doing all this content. It's generating leads. I'm like, Jake, what can I do today that's going to get me to where you are faster?
That's good. And just real quick, Noah,
Yeah.
When it comes to, like videos, what would you suggest to this new person? Just, do they just pick up their phone? Should they get like a camera? Like, what is it? How should they start, this video journey?
Yeah. So Rajiv mentioned them here, but we have resource documents. And what I've done is I created the 3 videos that have probably generated the most amount of leads and conversations for myself, and exactly how to go through and script them out, and with practical examples and visual examples as well. So the biggest thing is, like, I do community overviews, which have been huge as like a top of the lead funnel. So, upside down pyramid, look at the funnel. Community overviews is kind of how people get to start to know me, right? And then I go into listing tours and listing videos. And this is where I get to show my personality a little bit. And this is where people can decide, okay, I like this guy, I like his energy, or he's too young, I don't like the way he said this. And it adds as a natural filter, right? So there's no like, and to build trust is when I do the infrastructure updates. So an infrastructure update is, I'll do an intro and I'll talk about 3 or 4 new developments coming down to 30A, whether that's a new hotel, new apartments, and how all of that impacts the local real estate market. And so those are the 3 cornerstones that I kind of use for everything. I'm diving a little bit into, working with some nonprofits and kind of telling people's stories a little bit more, and then build their interviews have been another good passive income, if you will. I really like the builder interviews because it allows people to connect with me, and then I get, a percentage of their build project. And so that adds as a little income stream. But those 5 YouTube topics are kind of what I tend to focus on. So I would say, like, if you live in a certain community and you like your community, create a video on it next time you go for a walk, right? Talk about why you like it. Talk about who's building it there. Talk about the future amenities. Talk about the current amenities, and say, like, hey, I live here because it allows me to do this. And I think a lot of agents get messed up in the idea of, hey, check out this neighborhood, and it's just drone photos, and that's all you hear, right? But like, hey, check out this neighborhood because of X, right? It allows you to do Y. Right. And it has to have, if this happens, it allows you to do this. And that's kind of how I script all my videos. It's like, You talk about the general stuff you see on the MLS, talk about the general stuff that you see, and then value proposition. Why does this matter to me? And I think that's kind of how you take things to the next level.
Okay. Yeah,
I like that. I really like your community guides, Noah. And I use those a lot from our BHSS resources. So I think it's better on video. So I'm envious. Jake, I know, when we were putting this together, you gave a lot of good insight on how to get started as a new agent. So can you follow up with that?
Certainly. I think the biggest thing is to do something. I think a lot of people, they see videos, they see highly curated or really professionally done content. They think it's overproduced or they think it's something that's unattainable for them. And honestly, this right here is the best tool to just start. Video is a numbers game. Content and social media is a numbers game. I guarantee if you go on your Instagram right now, look at an influencer you follow, look at someone you look up to who is heavily involved on social media, look at how many posts that they have. The more posts that they have almost always directly correlates to how many followers they have and how much engagement they're getting. It's because they've been doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You're looking at someone 7 years in and saying, oh, I'm never going to get to that point. But I started with just taking videos on my phone, using Instagram, using TikTok. They have the editing apps built right in. It could literally be a video selfie. Hey, it's Jake. I'm here at 123 Main Street. Just got a new listing. Come check it out. And then you just 10-second videos panning through the house. It's showing people, hey, I'm in real estate. I'm in the business. Here's my face. This is what I look like. It's not just a house, because everybody knows it's a house. They don't know who you are. They want to know about you. They don't follow your accounts because of your houses. They follow your accounts because of you. And so I think that's the number one thing. And the second thing I think is everybody wants to create content for someone that they have in mind, right? So you have this audience like, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to create videos that are going to generate listing leads. That's the wrong way to do it. At the end of the day, you just have to do things that you enjoy, that you like talking about, that are true to who you are, whether that's funny content, whether that's serious, whether it's business oriented, where you're talking numbers and statistics, or maybe it's design. Like whatever you're really passionate about is what you need to focus on, because that's what's going to shine through who your personality is and who you are. And that's more genuine. It's more organic. It's more real. The organic content is what will be more authentic. And you can write a script if you want to sound more professional, more polished. Just make sure that it's truly how you would talk, and talk like it's you. You don't want to talk like a robot, because then you feel like you're not being authentic and you won't stay consistent. And then lastly, that leads to my last point, is when you feel like other people are judging the way you look or any of that, you won't post it. Like I now don't watch any of my content because I hate the way I sound and I don't like the way I look in half of the videos. And so if I look at it, I'll be like, don't post that one. I don't like that one. Right? Like we are the most critical people. And I see this even with members of my team. They'll have a video and they'll be like, I don't want to post this. I don't like the way it looks. Meanwhile, everybody else thinks it looks phenomenal. It was well put together. They look great. It was well, but they're like, they don't like the way that like their face looks for like 5 seconds of the video. And that's holding you back. Like that inner criticism is holding you back from just going out and doing something that'll improve your business, improve the way that you're doing things. And it's also just putting out more positive information about agents, the industry, all of that stuff, providing more value, showing that we are educated, we know what we're doing. It's overall good for everybody. And not doing that is just going to stop you from putting yourself out there.
That's great. Basically, close your eyes and hit publish.
That's it.
Yeah.
Turn the sound on. Don't listen to it if you don't want to.
Jake's got a little bit more money than me, so he has a team that helps him with all of that stuff. As someone that actually looks at themselves and has to edit their own content, I think it's one of those things where if I'm about to meet somebody with coffee, like to get coffee or something like that, and I look at myself in the mirror, that's how I look, that's how I sound. If I want to be skinnier, more fit, I got to do a better job in the gym, right? There's things that if people are going to see me right now, if my goal is to make a video and to see them tomorrow, I'm going to look exactly the same, right? And so obviously the goal is to get to where Jake's at, where he could just have, people posting all this different cool stuff. But in the meantime, like where I got to stare at myself for like 3 hours to figure out if I like the content. I think the biggest thing is, okay, look at it from a value standpoint. Is this adding value to my consumer, or is it just taking away their time? Because like for my price point, I work with a lot of CEOs, VPs, a lot of high execs. So the most amount of time that I can get with a lot of these guys is probably 15 to 30 minutes. And if I can have 5 minutes of their time to tell them one thing, like what am I trying to tell them? And then from that value standpoint, the video is not about me. Yeah, obviously I want people to like me. I want them to know me. I want them to trust me. But I take a lot of the pressure off myself by focusing on the story I'm trying to tell. And I think once you do that, I think it has less of this, oh, I hate the way I look. I hate the way I sound. It's more like, if I don't tell somebody this, somebody else is going to do it. You know, if I'm in New
And no,
York
if
and
I
hit me,
go
go.
ahead, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I was just gonna say I agree with you, and like I always say, from a creation standpoint, you either want to educate, entertain, or inspire.
Yeah.
And like to your point of adding value, if you're doing one of those things, you're adding value.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're
That's great
I
successful,
think,
then you don't care
yeah.
what you look like on video.
Yeah.
So 4 listings. Woo. Okay, so with content, you know, we just talked about getting started and things like that. How often do you post, and what metrics are you guys looking at?
So, you know, I think it's a cool thing about being in the brand is like I get to connect with Jake, who, you know, I'm 2 years into the business and he is 10 now. Now you're 30, Jake.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's one of those things where it's like his path looks very similar to where my path is. So I'm 2 years in when he's 10 years in. So I'm posting primarily on one platform being YouTube. And right now, as we ramp up for spring break, it's huge for our market, obviously, because people are coming down the beach, people want to enjoy it. I post more now than I do in the off season. So like I'm trying to post 6 to 8 pieces of content on YouTube a month compared to like the last 4 months, I've been doing one a week, right? So for me, it's cyclical. I want to match it to where it matches up with my real estate cycle and to where people are going to actually watch and engage with my content. But the thing is, like, what I've started to realize is people are watching my content from when I was in the off season, right? And the biggest thing I learned in the off season is I kept thinking to myself, like, what do you do when you don't know what to do? And for me, it was create a video, right? It's like, if I want to sit down there and do a cold call for 2 hours, I have the option to do that. Or I can reach a similar amount of people and have that passively prospect for me more than the 2 hours by doing a video. So I've been trying to do 1 or 2 a week. And I think from that standpoint, obviously, it gets your watch time up. And if I create one video that somebody doesn't have interest in, but then the second video I do that week, somebody has an interest in, that way it's appealing to both audiences. And then Jake posts every day.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, Jake's an Instagram guy mostly, right?
Yeah, so Noah kind of alluded to it. I have like a bunch of different types of content. The page, the document that we're going to send out will have like examples of all the different types of videos. And it didn't start like that. It started with one type of video. It was just basically listing tours. And then we would repurpose that into different things. And that's kind of what our entire strategy is. It's really just taking longer form organic content and then repurposing that. So like, you know, in terms of quantity of number of times, each platform's different. Like YouTube, it's usually if I can get out 1, maybe 2 posts a week on like as a longer form video, that's really like the sweet spot for me. But we do shorts daily, but shorts are just repurposed reels or TikToks. So all 3 of those are essentially the same. And what's interesting is you'll see, you know, engagement, views, comments, likes, whatever will be different. I'll have the same video posted on 3 different platforms and get 3 different, completely different experiences. So on Facebook, I'll have a video do 5 to 10,000 views. That'll get 200 on TikTok. And so you don't know where that video is going to do well. So if you are creating those short form, 30-second, a minute long videos, you have the video already. You might as well post it everywhere. Same caption, whatever the case may be. And then you're getting 3 different platforms, 3 different audiences with one video. So it's a lot of like that, just taking longer form, trying to narrow it down with small, you know, and that's how we get the quantity. Because otherwise, you know, if I was just taking a 30-minute video, it would be hard to, you know, just get that and do that at scale.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Where are you getting your content? You're just thinking of it, you know, how are you getting creative with it?
Well, I think there's like a lot of people don't see behind the scenes is probably for Jake and I both is that we're researching, right? Like if I'm laying in bed and I'm on TikTok, I'm trying to find the next piece of content that I think stands out to me. And it's conversations plenty of times with Jake and I where it's like, hey, what's working for you and what's not working for you? And let's try to create ideas together. And so it's less of we're genius masterminds sitting in our office trying to come up with ideas and more like, okay, there's tons of agents, right? And I like the idea that some art is original, but not every art is original. It's just manipulated to fit something better. So Jake will tell me an idea, and I'll take the aspect that I really like of it and do the same thing down here. But I think it's one of those things where it's you constantly have to be researching it and sharing ideas with other people and having people keep you accountable. Because if you don't have that, then you're left to your own devices. And if that was the case, I'd probably be out of ideas last year, you know. There's only a certain amount of things I can do and talk about. But that's the other thing. Like, I focus a lot on new development. And from last time I checked, people aren't stopping to build anytime soon. So it creates that natural leg of content, right? So there's a phase that I really like working in, has 800 families, but they're building out 5 new phases. So that's 5 videos that I'm now creating on each specific phase and doing videos with builders, talking about all that stuff. So basically what I'm taking is one idea and one subsection of my market and manipulating it into different types of videos.
Yeah. So you're learning from others and you're working smarter, not harder, it sounds like. Jake, where are you getting your content?
So some of it is just like we do weekly meetings where we'll just brainstorm ideas. We do like business planning, all of that. So we call it like social media brain. So we'll be like walking down the street and you just have an idea, you write it down, you text it, whatever, and you just try and we again test everything, like just trying every type of content that's out there. But for me, the biggest difference or what really helped me to kind of take it to the next level, anybody who knows like who Gary Vaynerchuk is for years, he's always said like document, don't create. And it literally took me like 10 years to understand what the hell he meant by that. Every time I heard it, I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's essentially what we do is we literally like weekly business meetings. We just turn the camera on, we record the meeting. You just never know when you're going to get a video out of that. We do events for our clients. We have someone with a camera there just taking B-roll and filming. And, you know, we do golf outings. We do brokers open houses, right? We're showcasing the house. We're showcasing the team. It's adding a personality. So a lot of it is just like I have a podcast. So a lot of it'll be long form videos where I'm interviewing people. That's a whole nother piece of it that is great because it's like, you know, a way to ask for someone's time in a non-aggressive and passive way where you're offering to do something for them. And then we take that and we break that up into 6 to 8 videos. So a lot of it's just documenting the things that we're already doing. Like if you go and meet a client and they're okay with being on camera, put the camera on and record it for 20 or 30 minutes and see that conversation because they don't have to be in it. They don't have to talk about it, but you're going to be answering questions that show your expertise that you can then take and put into a 30-second or 1-minute long video talking about the market, talking about how you market a home, talking about the process. And you're already talking about this stuff. And I think that's the big thing. Like a lot of people are like, I don't know what to post. I don't know what to, you talk about this stuff every single day. You're an expert in your business. All you have to do now is instead of doing it to someone that's sitting with you, do it to someone that's sitting with you, but record it. And then you can repurpose that video into a million different things, however you want, but then it's true to you and it's organic. So you don't have to go out there and be like a genius wizard and like create a bunch of different ideas. And there is some of that after time when you're like just trying to have fun with it and create new and exciting ideas. And to Noah's point, a lot of it is like, we'll see a video and we'll be like, how do I make that like in my tone or in my personality? How can I make that how I would do it, like my own personal spin on it? And that's really it. It's kind of like there's no perfect solution. You kind of just got to try it out and see what you find in your own, you know, system almost.
Yeah, that makes me think of like last night I was trying to come up with some real ideas because I don't do the short form content. I really want to. But like probably for instance, if I thought of these ideas, I'd text Jake and be like, hey, here's the 3 videos I'm thinking of, right? I saw one guy do, he said, hey, let me take a minute of your time to tell you about this new development. And he put like a little countdown clock and it was a vertical thing. He just talked about the entire development. And I stayed engaged with it. I don't even live there, you know, it's a totally different part of Florida. But I was watching it and I was like, he got my attention like that, right? How can you generate the engagement and the attention of others? So that was one cool idea. I saw someone do one that's what I'm telling my buyers and sellers this month, right? In an ever-changing market where things are constantly going one way or another. And I'll tell you, like, I have 8+ months of inventory, right? So everybody has a home for sale right now. And we don't have a lot of buyers that are willing and able to just kind of start buying a lot of this stuff up. And so like I can have, like right now I have 14 listings when, you know, listings 2 years ago was like an ATM, right? And so now it's like, okay, how can I generate buyers to do both of this? So there's different things that you can tailor conversations to. Like I probably need to create one today where it's like what I'm telling my buyers this month. And that way it kind of gets people, it gets me in front of other people and allows other people that may not be connected with me to kind of see, okay, this guy actually knows something. Hopefully that's the goal, right? You got to think about it a little bit, what you're going to say. But those are some ideas that I just saw that I think would be pretty cool if someone did it.
I mean, those sound like really cool ideas. Maybe I'll start implementing some of those things.
Yeah, there you
Stealing
go.
yours, huh?
Yeah. So tell me, guys, so if you create a video, what's the best way, or what are some tricks or tips on how do people find these videos? Descriptions? Is it geotagging? What are you doing for people to find these videos? Good. Jake, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think number one, Instagram, I think, is in the top 15 globally in terms of SEO. So writing a descriptive caption, if it's a listing, writing the listing, like whatever it is, just putting longer form captions in there so that the algorithm and so that SEO wise, it just drives attention and it increases the ability for people to discover that. I think locationally, like you said, geotagging is helpful if it's specific. So I know for me, if I'm traveling to somewhere, I'll go on there and look at like some of the posts and just see what's there. But I think the biggest thing is that's like a hack is like collaboration. So if you are posting a piece of content with someone, um, or it's a house and you hired someone to film it, or whatever the case may be, a local business, tagging that business, tagging whoever's involved, because that becomes shareable content. So now they're going to do what? They're going to reshare it to all of their audiences. And now you're going to expose your page to all of those people. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like naturally people want you, they want to help you, number one, but number two, they want to reshare what you tag them in. So if you tag a bunch of people, they're going to reshare it, and then you're going to be exposed to that whole new audience. So I think that's the biggest way to like, as a hack, to really get new people seeing your stuff.
That's a good one. That's definitely
Yeah.
a good one. What about
No,
you?
I'm sure. Yeah, you get into a lot of
Jake is way smarter
SEO
than
and
I am. Like I said, I'm 23. I graduated from college when I was 20. So, and the only reason I did that is because everything was online and I got to cheat my way through it. But the biggest thing that I learned is like, okay, if we're looking at SEO, I'm not an SEO expert. I like to think I can sell real estate pretty well. I just use ChatGPT for the most part of generating the types of titles and captions that I think, because I don't know what stands out in keywords of what people are essentially looking for. So
Yeah.
I've used TubeBuddy is a great Chrome extension. It allows me to see what kind of tags people are using to tell YouTube like, hey, my video is about this. And by leveraging that, it allows me to pop up as the first or second when someone looks up a certain neighborhood or search term. So TubeBuddy has been a really good I would just say it's a supplement, right? It's not the only thing that's going to help me get to that next point. And then I just look at YouTubers that I think are popular. Some YouTubers when they are focused on real estate, like I always look at Ryan Serhant, right? Ryan Serhant does a great job of attracting other agents to watch his stuff too, right? But at the same time, there's certain things that he does that you can tell is tailored towards buyers or sellers, right? His main goal is to build up, sell it like Sirhan. My main goal is to attract buyer or seller leads. So then like Brad McCollum out of I think Calgary up in Canada, I see what thumbnails and what YouTube titles are working for him. And I take it and manipulate it because on all these search or all these social medias, the biggest thing that's driven by is numbers, right? So understand the back end metrics. Like you can go to my YouTube channel right now and look at most popular and take the stuff that works and leverage it, right? And so I try to do things where it's probably quick and easy. And so what I like to do is like I find certain thumbnails that work and I take it and manipulate it to make it my own, right? And it's the same thing where it's like I think the biggest thing is titles, thumbnails, and then your copywriting, right? Because that tells the platforms what you're actually talking about. And then once you get people into the door, you better make sure that your video is actually valuable for them to stay. Because the main thing I look at is retention rate. I'm saying, okay, did I bore people enough where they trailed off and didn't watch the rest of it? Or is this engaging enough? Or do I need to add more things throughout here where there's more jump cuts, right? Or if there's certain styles of editing I need to do, or maybe I need to be on camera more than B-roll. So there's certain things that you can kind of learn and to extend that retention rate because the retention allows me to have more watch time, which then tells people on the YouTube people, I don't know who's behind doing all the back end stuff for me personally, but they're going through and telling people like, hey, they're actually watching your content and here is why, right? And so I think understanding the back end system and studying what other people are doing is a huge thing to do.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're getting close to questions. So I guess we want to finish off with one last question here. What is the top thing, golden nuggets that you can share before we get into the Q&A? Jake, you want to take this one?
Wait, I'm gonna add
So
something to that. What tools are you using and what like equipment are you using and what apps are you using to edit these videos?
I'm going to leave that part to Noah because he's the expert
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
For me,
No,
I would say
I
this.
still edit my
The,
stuff. Yeah, you want to go?
yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, I would say the biggest pushback, the biggest block I think people have, I always hear this is, oh, I just don't want to post video. And the biggest thing that I could say is if you don't do it, your competition will.
Right.
That's like, in 1990 saying, I'm not going to market my stuff on the internet. Imagine not being on the internet now, right? So whether or not you like it, that's where this business is going. That's what the consumer has told us loud and clear that they want. And so just get started, don't overthink it. Just start doing something. Like I said earlier, turn your camera on your phone, go on the Instagram, the TikTok app, start with one and just post it. I sent out in the document, I have a video example of exactly what I did. That's the simplest and easiest thing that you can do. It takes 10 seconds, and you're out there just talking about what you want to do. Be authentic to yourself and just do it. Start somewhere. And if you need ideas, reach out to me and I'm happy to help you.
Dude, so
good.
smart. So what I use is there's certain tools and gear I use is all in. I added a video blueprint as a document, and so it has literally linked everything, that everything I ever use for video production. And so I'm incredibly lucky. I started out doing video production for my church. I got to meet Jimmy. Jimmy came to the church and was kind of like, "Hey, how can I take you back to Santa Rosa Beach and do the same thing for me?" And that's how I started out my internship. So I grew up with a camera in hand, especially traveling. So there's a lot of things I was lucky enough to know before I got into real estate to leverage it. But there are a ton of tools in that document, from microphones, from lenses, from everything you need to know. And if you don't want to do that anymore, you can hire a videographer. And so that would lead me into my golden nugget is find a friend or a videographer that's willing to record you and tell you like, hey man, that didn't sound like you. Or hey, when you said it this way, it sounded a little weird. There's some fluctuation in your voice. Try saying it again. Because the last thing that you want to do is look back. You have all this great footage. You spent hours shooting it. You get back to your computer, edit it, and you're like, hey, I totally messed this part up. I should have said something else. Right. And so like I just did that I was recording myself. I have this pretty cool contraption here where I can record myself. Right. And it looks like a crazy person. It is part of it. Right. But it makes me money. So why not? And so the biggest thing I did was I went out there and I was like, I didn't have anybody else. I got back to my computer and I was like, I said the name of the community wrong 4 times, right?
Oh, no.
And so I got back to my computer and I was like, I totally messed this up. And so luckily I've edited in a way where you can't tell. But the biggest thing is like find a friend or a videographer that's willing to tell you constructive criticism right in the moment. Because the last thing you want to do is already feel more self-conscious, if you feel self-conscious already, about your video, because you're afraid somebody else is going to call out your mistakes. So that's probably my number one golden nugget. And then like to lean into the brands, like I'm incredibly thankful to be part of the Rethink Council, in which I get to meet up with 15 of the greatest, mastermind groups that in the country. And it's one of those things where it's like, if I didn't have that, if I didn't have the ability to ask for help, I'd be so far behind. So lean into the brand and keep attending things like this. I think this is a great candid conversation that you kind of get some insight on what's actually working, what's not working.
And no, I want to add one thing because I think you made a great point. It is really awkward, especially at first, right?
Yeah.
Like it's uncomfortable, it's awkward. If you told me 10 years ago I'd be doing this, I would have laughed at you in the face. Like I hate it in a lot of ways. It gets better. Like that's the biggest thing. A lot of the time people do it the first time and they're like, that was terrible. I was so bad. I'm never going to sound good. And then a lot of people just quit there. But I've seen it firsthand with many different members on my team. That second time, a little bit better. That third time, a little bit better. And the next thing you know, 4th or 5th time, you'd think they were doing this for 5 years. So it takes practice, it takes time, but it is awkward. No matter how well someone how well they speak or how good they seem at it, everybody started the same way. Awkward as hell, and it was not pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure your editing and everything got better over time quickly too. So I don't know. I think that's helpful for all of us to learn.
Definitely, I would think. All right, awesome. So we've hit almost 12:50. So Rajiv,
Well, gentlemen and Molly, you guys did a great job. I was taking copious notes, by the way, although this is being recorded. So I'm going to dive into some questions. Noah and Jake, thank you both for taking your time away from your business and sharing and paying it forward to our company. So one of the questions that there's several themes in the questions, and I think most of those will get answered with the documents that Jake and Noah sent us that we're going to follow up and share with you. But I'm going to pick off a couple of questions that. So do either of you deviate from real estate content on your social platforms and jumping into trends, posting some personal content? How much of the personality do you mix in beyond just the content being all real estate specific?
Yeah, I'll hit that. I keep all my stuff on a personal account. So my Facebook and my Instagram. I don't have a team. If I were to ever expand to a team, I'll probably have more professional Instagram for them. But it's pretty much it's either real estate, something I'm doing, or a picture of me and my girlfriend, right? Those are the three things that I tend to post the most. And I think some of that will start to leverage more so the story side of everything as my account gets a little bit more professional. But I think like the top producers that I see always have a story up. You know, it always has a little circle, the rainbow circle. So that's one thing I'm trying to lean a lot more into is like, okay, what behind the scenes content can I do? And I think doing that will show your personality a lot more than, you know, maybe some random picture of you saying what you're doing. And Jake likes to do TikTok dances. He just doesn't post.
That's it. I do get ready with me videos every day.
Yeah.
I don't do any of the trends and stuff like that, more so just because that's not really like my personality. That's not how I am. But I mean, I'm a huge sports guy, love to golf. I'll post stuff about that. My fiance, my family, things that I'm doing, like Noah said. I will mix in some of the personal stuff, love to go out to eat, you know, and explore and things like that. So I'll post about like the communities that I'm in, the things that I'm doing, and you know, personal life and things like that. That's probably like 10% of what I post. I don't do a ton of it, but I try and sprinkle it in so that it does show a little bit more of like the, you know, non-business side as well.
Right.
So another question, I as you started to talk, Noah, you talked about most viewed on your YouTube channel. If I asked either of you, what was the most viral video you've created? And if you can put a wrapper on why, I don't know if that's in your notes, but I'm going to ask that question ad hoc.
Yeah.
Both of you.
So I wouldn't call it viral at all. I mean, it probably has almost 3,000 views, but it's an infrastructure update in Panama City Beach of the newest things coming to our area, right? And that was one of those things where it allowed me to expand my reach because people started sharing it in different Facebook groups and saying like, we love this, we hate this. And it allowed me to kind of act as the news or like a resource. And then I started to appeal to a bunch of different people in Panama City Beach. People were like, well, I see this pile of dirt. What is this going to be? And it just allowed me to be the knowledge broker in that sense. You know, I think that if I can go viral for stuff like that and conversation starters, I'm excited, right? I think that's way better than a random reel of me doing something crazy or something like that, right? I want to go viral for adding the most amount of value possible. And again, those infrastructure updates are huge, not only for investors, homeowners, home buyers, but also developers too. So like that's the next part of my business. I've had a couple of developers reach out to me and say, hey, how can we create content together? You'll be our guy in the area, and I would love for you to post our stuff. I'm like, sweet, right? Friendships, relationships. That's how viral it got for me.
You, Jake?
So for me, the videos that have gotten the most engagement, I can remember one specifically. So I do a weekly meeting that I just record, and then we clip that into short little clips. A lot of it's like business planning, marketing, negotiation, training, all of that stuff. One of the most viral was a video I talked about open houses, because in our market, you know, it's really more than anything a ploy for agents to generate leads than it is to actually sell the house. And I was talking about that in the video. And essentially what ended up happening was a bunch of people going back and forth about brokers and open houses, and, you know, people commenting, I would never buy a house from an open house, and people arguing that they went to an open house and bought that house. So like what I found is the most engaging content a lot of the time is the stuff that sparks conversation, good and bad. And it's not necessarily like them, like I've had people criticize me for certain things I've said in my videos, and I'll respond to them and say, hey, I think this was taken out of context. This is really what I meant by that. And then we have a good conversation about it. And the next thing you know, you have 5, 10, 15 comments, and that's all helping the algorithm drive engagement. And people see that. I've had videos that have gotten 50, 75, 100,000 views just from that conversation. Whereas in the beginning, I probably would have deleted that video because I was like, oh my God, there's a hater. So, you know, it's that type of content that I've seen generate the most eyeballs, I guess you could say.
Great. So both of you shared, I mean, it looks like Noah does his own stuff, editing, shooting, all of that. And Jake, you have a videographer that's sort of helping you a little bit. And Noah, I think, will grow there at some point, right? To offload some of that stuff. Are you paying to boost any of your videos on any social platforms? That came in through one of the couple of questions. So talk about any spend you have on social platforms.
Yeah, I don't do that at all. I leverage more so of the organic growth because I've seen that work. And that way I know the calls that I'm getting or the leads that are coming through are fully intentional on carrying out some type of real estate transaction, right? That's the most important thing to me. I don't care if 100,000 people see me and one person buys. I care if there's 300 views and 3 of them buy, right? And I'm kind of half and half. So half the videos I do are produced by myself, and the other half are with a video company that I have on retainer. So from an investment standpoint, I think last year was about $50,000. But the first YouTube lead that I closed is about 37. And so, you know, if you take 10 million and you look at a $50,000 investment off $10 million in sales, I like the odds all day, right? And I think it's a good thing to have I probably would run myself into bankruptcy if every time I want to do a video, I had somebody else do it because they're so expensive. So it kind of taught me like, okay, I need to get my stuff together and I need to be able to learn how to do a lot of the stuff myself. That way I can leverage both, right? So when I have my listing tours and community overviews, I can hire the high quality video team. And then when I need to do stuff myself for the infrastructure updates or some just general market overviews and stuff like that, I can handle that myself. So it's about 50-50 on there.
You, Jake?
For me, I have I have a company on retainer that we work with monthly. But when I started, a lot of what I did was just filming the videos and then using Upwork and Fiverr and just having them edit it, right? You can outsource it that way. Super simple. You can explain to them exactly what you want, give them examples of what you're looking for. You get revisions. I think for someone who wants to do something and you have someone to go out and shoot video with, or you're shooting in selfie mode, whatever it is, that's the cheapest way to get it edited without having to learn all of that stuff. And you can still focus on selling, because I'm very much like, I want to be able to take that time and still meet with clients and do that stuff.
And you mentioned, Jake, you mentioned start on your phone, which I think is a great suggestion. Don't look for perfection, just look for progress. So in terms of apps on your phone, beyond the native social media apps like Instagram and all that, do you use any other things like CapCut, or where would you think some go-to apps, I'm going to ask both of you that, on your phone that you feel like are your go-to video apps?
So I use Adobe Premiere Pro on my computer itself. They have an app called, I think it's Adobe Rush. And it's kind of the same things without being so technical. I like the flexibility because I know all the different tools to use that. If I didn't know how to do that, I would use CapCut. I think a lot of the top people, you know, not only in real estate, but influencers or anything like that, they're using CapCut, they're using the templates. And plus you can kind of see what's popular and kind of just drag and drop and it'll do everything else for you. And I think if you wanted to have a little bit more control, I use Adobe Rush.
Jake?
Yeah, I've used CapCut before, like Noah was saying, and honestly, most of the time it's just right in whatever app I'm using. So if I'm using Instagram or whether I'm using TikTok, like a lot of the time they offer 90% of what you need. That's good enough to get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, folks, I think we're going to put a wrapper on this first inaugural REvolve. And before we end, I want to make an announcement about our next company-wide webinar, Accelerate Live, that's happening on April 19th at noon, hosted by our very own CEO, Larry Flick, on the topic of thriving in a human-enabled AI-powered world, featuring BHHS Beach Properties of Florida and my podcast co-host, Jimmy Burgess, and me. So registration link will be out this afternoon, and we hope to see you on there. And Jake and Noah, thank you so much for adding so
Thank
much
you,
value to our company.
Thank you.
And Molly and Lewis, you were amazing hosts, and thank you all. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
Rajiv. Thanks, Lewis. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. Thank you, Jake.